Hello and welcome everyone at today's Fireside chat about RFID as the operational excellence enabler at River Island. I'm joined by Tom today, and we'll take some time for people to tune in. We just had some lovely, lovely music to get us started. So maybe some of us are already here, but I'm counting on some people trickling in as we go. So I would love to do a quick round for an intro with Tom, and not just any intro, but we'll do some um, fire questions because it's a fireside chat, Tom. So I hope you're ready. You ready for this?
No pressure. Go on, Steffi, bring it
Okay,
on.
cool. And let's use this to get to know you just a little bit better before we start in the real content of today. First one, are you an online or an in-store guy?
In store for clothes, online for everything else. My doorbell is going every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I hope we don't get interrupted in the middle of this session with a
No, we're
package
good today.
arriving.
I've made sure.
Good, good. What was your first job in retail?
So I worked part time. So while I was in college, part time at a health and beauty retailer. So started my career selling fragrance and body wash.
Awesome. So started from the bottom and now here you are as the RFID owner. Cool. If you could solve one operational challenge forever, what would it be and why?
Slow internet
Yeah.
dropouts, 100%. Yeah, when you want to do something and you want to be really quick, and yeah, it's not working in your favor.
Yeah, I feel you. I even went to a special occasion today for stable internet, so let's hope it lasts.
Fingers crossed.
What is the most surprising thing you've learned about shoppers from when you started in retail to where you are now?
I wouldn't say it's surprising as such, but how quick trends come around and how quick they disappear. So the hot product, maybe a viral product, it will sell like hotcakes for a couple of weeks and then nobody wants it anymore and it's forgotten about and you're on to the next thing. Yeah, it's crazy how it comes and goes so quick.
Yeah, I feel you, and especially also as a customer myself or consumer myself, I notice it that the one week I have something that's really hot, and then the next week I already feel like an old lady because it's totally not cool anymore.
Why did I buy that is a question I ask myself a lot of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that has definitely changed since a few years ago. And we'll talk more about that also and how you dealt with that at River Island in a little bit. But I have one more question before we go into that, Tom.
Well,
If you could tag anything in your personal life with RFID or other technology, what would it be?
okay, I don't even need to think about this. It's my car keys. I leave them anywhere and everywhere. And then I'm hunting around to find them. And they're normally in the place they should be, but I'm hunting around the house, left, right, and center, trying to find them. Yeah.
Yeah, get a
And
hook next to the door so you can never forget them, right?
yeah, it's just then I've got to remember to put it on the hook. And then I'll go, where are they? Are they on the hook? If they're not on the hook, where are they? So yeah,
Yeah, it
definitely
becomes
an
even
instant.
harder. Yeah, smart. It was nice to get to know you a little bit better. I know there are a lot of people that you mentioned that you already know from the industry, from other retailers. So if you're here listening in today, feel free to introduce yourself quickly, say hi in the chat and say where you're listening from. It's always nice for us to see who's here. And then it's actually time to go into the real topic of today. And before we do that, I'm going to ask you lots of questions, Tom, because I want to know so much. And of course, I also want to give a proper introduction to who you are, who River Island is, and the way you work with RFID. But it's also up to the audience today to ask any questions they may want to ask. So in the chat, we will see questions come by. Sometimes I'll pick it up in the conversation straight away and otherwise we'll leave it to the end and we have some time to answer that. And we have Adam helping out today as well, who is actually customer success manager for River Island at Meetup. So he may help you out a little here and there, Tom, in case questions pop up. We'll leave the difficult ones for Adam.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Perfect. So we got to know you a little bit. Now, of course, we also want to we're going to get to know River Island a little bit better because some might be more familiar with River Island than others. So I'm very curious. You already mentioned that trends are quick nowadays. What is your customer like nowadays? How do they shop? Where do they shop? What do they do?
Very, very similar, funnily enough. So, working in fashion retail, anyone that works in fashion retail will know there'll be a trend of the season, and then you'll come in 2 weeks later and it's completely different. Completely different product offering, but also completely different requirement from the customer as well. So, it's constantly changing, and you can't get complacent or comfortable because what's in 1 week will not be your bestseller in a few weeks' time. So yeah, it's very similar at River Island. We are pretty much still a bricks and mortar retailer. So we have a lot of physical stores, and a lot of our customers come to our stores to shop for the inspiration, the look and feel of the garments, and to build their outfits. I think shopping online is great for a lot of things, and it's great to build a wish list. And sometimes if you know the product you want and you need to grab it quick, then you will order it on the web. But I think with clothing, especially, and shoes, you definitely need to get out there, and our customers are the same. So yeah, a lot of our traffic still flows into our stores.
Right. And how do you differentiate yourself from other retailers out in the same space?
So I think we are a very good company in that we will try new things. So we're a try everything once kind of brand. We'll do some flashy windows at Christmas, and then maybe a summer campaign. I know there's a really great women's wear campaign launching very, very shortly, which is having massive buzz on social media, and it's those kind of things. So River Island is always trying to keep on top of that trend and be that destination for our customer and keep them coming back. And I think that's the key thing. And we'll talk into detail, but it's not just the product, it's the technology and everything that sits behind it that brings some customers back to us time and time again.
Yeah, no, I feel you. What we mainly will talk about today is, of course, RFID, but I remember you saying that actually it's not just about RFID, but operational excellence as a whole that you really try to focus on in your role as the RFID owner. Why do you think operational excellence is such a key driver for skill?
I think RFID is sometimes labeled as in the box, here's a solution and run with it. Whereas we believe that RFID enables a lot of things. Some things are already there, and some of them are pretty standard. And then there's some things that you've never thought of, and go, can RFID support with that? And that's the kind of way we look at things now. So it's less of even though I'm named the product owner, RFID isn't much of a product as such. It's an enabler to create this ecosystem that we have. And that, I'd say that's something that we've been quite successful with over the years.
Yeah, and we'll get into that story now, actually, because you mentioned it's now a foundation. We do all sorts of things with it, and I'm eager to find out all the things you are doing or you're planning on doing even. It's sort of a story from where you came from, where you are right now, and where you may even be going. But first, let's get into the time machine, travel back years and years, because you started with RFID how many years ago?
Oh, I'm
You
trying to.
even started before I was in the space of RFID, so that's a long time ago.
The first time I touched RFID within River Island, or in general, I think it was 2017.
Wow.
And I was part of a tagging party. So those in the industry know that tagging parties are great. A lot of fun, a lot of snacks, a lot of late nights to get a store set up and ready. And that was the first time I'd ever seen RFID in the wild, in use. And coming from other retailers that had done stock taking in a variety of different ways, I was like, this is quick. This is a game changer if it works. And when we first launched, we launched with stock taking. That was the primary objective of RFID. We wanted to make stock taking our stores better and much quicker and more reliable and more often. So we were only doing manual counts once or twice a year in our stores. So you can imagine the inventory accuracy was pretty shocking. We used to sit around 75%. And then over the years, we're now around a 98.5% accuracy. So, apples and pears, completely different end of the spectrum. And it's enabled us to make so many decisions from that. But that wasn't the end goal. That's the core platform, knowing what stock is where. But then we started digging into what stock is in that store, but not out for our customers to purchase. So then we developed our replenishment system to incorporate that as well. So looking at sales and returns that were coming into the store, but also what sizes are being bought, and then they're available in the back and they need to go out on the floor for the next customer. So that really drove our ethos at the time, was the right stock, right place, right time, but also the right location within the store. It's all great shipping it to a store in London where it sells, but if the team don't put that product out, it will never sell again. So that was the second core that we kind of bolted on. Quite recently, we've then started receiving in, so doing inbound and outbound scanning to our stores at RFID levels, so having the stock file correct as soon as it arrives. Going back from a barcode-driven system to RFID was great. And now that we've got confidence in the data, we've now started exposing that to other things. So in some of our stores, we alarm our security gates using the RFID chip as opposed to a hard security tag solution. We have a partnership with Crave, so we have interactive fitting rooms for our customers. So we're now able to expose that information to our customers rather than it just being an internal operation tool. And then also assistance in a couple of our stores where a customer can take a product, walk over to a kiosk, and it'll tell them if they've got that size available for them and request it. But I think the big one for us is RFID has enabled us to speed up our checkout times for our customers. So we've started introducing RFID-based self-checkouts, which are great, especially if you're there in the peak of sale. You can just put it straight in, it reads it, off you go. Lovely. And then also the same at our cash desks as well, to try and improve the experience for our teams. You know, it's great with the customer experience, but our customers, or for me personally, as also our store teams, we need to make sure that what we do is right for them as well as the end customer. So yeah, bit of a journey, bit of an overview. It's been a long few years and we're not done yet. I can tell you
It
that.
has been. And if you then look at, you went from operational excellence, even starting from a headquarters perspective, like getting grip on that stock, but then moving into operational excellence on a store level perspective. So how do you optimize the processes in the store to drive sales? Even into how do we optimize the excellence the customer can experience when they are in our stores based on all these operational efficiencies. That's a great starting point and a great ending point, but you're not even done yet.
No.
Not a cliffhanger for later. For
Not a day
everyone
of
in the
rest for
chat.
me.
Everyone in the chat, don't forget to ask your questions because I'll just keep going. But if you have specific questions about anything Tom says, feel free to chip in. But I want to take another moment to reflect on when you started, because you started with a very, very clear focus. And anyone who is starting may think, okay, but there's so much RFID can bring. Why would you just focus on the stock takes? Why is that the main thing that you started with?
It required a lot of work, so a lot of back-end work. So we source tag all of our products. It made sense to start source tagging as many divisions as we could at the time. And stock taking for us was a kind of we needed to create a better solution to the existing proposition. It wasn't great, and we knew it. You know, any retailer would say counting their inventory once a year is not great because it goes out very quickly. But we also had no way of fixing it until the end of that year as well, which then became troublesome. So we knew it was wrong and we couldn't do anything with it. Whereas for us, stock taking using RFID was a quick win in that it was, you know, great benefit, but a very low overhead. It was something we were already doing, but in a slightly different form. So it was just reworking that. But then it's much quicker. As anyone that uses RFID will learn, it's much quicker than scanning a barcode. So where we budgeted for these annual stock takes every year, it actually meant that we could pay to do stock takes in all the stores every week. And they were fairly level because the time it takes to do an RFID count, especially if you're me running around like there's no tomorrow, is much quicker than the 10, 12-hour shifts with 30, 40 bodies trying to count everything in your store. So yeah, it was a great win for us. It made sense to start there. Everything else we just layer on top of that foundation as an extra benefit.
So with just that initiative alone, you already managed to get clear measures and build an ROI for RFID. So you said to start with, this is the ROI we're going for, and it's enough to justify the project.
Yeah,
Is that how I should see it?
Yeah, we were able to bring everything in-house, so we weren't having to use third-party inventory companies. See, technically yourselves as the software solution provider, but then we were able to use our own employees as well to support with that. So it was all done in-house to set that up and go forward. So that's always great to use your own labour. So then straight away we saw a uplift in sales benefit. Previously, we kind of knew that product wouldn't be there, or there was an assumption that it is, but it hasn't sold for the last 30 weeks, for example. Whereas as soon as we got RFID in and we were able to actively replenish a store because we know that product's no longer there, and then see it sell in a short space of time, we were really able to have tangible uplift. So at that time, we were around a 3.5% uplift. So 3.5% was just coming out of the RFID counts that were being done weekly, and then us
It's
getting
an
that stock
immediate
back in.
replenishment to the store. So you would spot something is missing in the count, replenish it to the store, and drive a sale that you would otherwise not have counted.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas before, it may be that that product is missing in October and we weren't planning to do a stock take till the following August. Then in August, we realised we don't have that product, but also, again, fashion retailer, you don't keep your product for long. We don't have any then, so we couldn't send it, and it's probably not the product that customers want. It's a different season. So yeah, now that we're able to immediately replenish and get that stock to the store that needs it as quick as possible, it's great. And all the other layers has just sped that up over time.
Right. You did many more initiatives following after. You just highlighted a few of them. Did the KPI stay the same, or did you also, from your team's perspective, up the game when it comes to ROI and KPIs that you can attribute to RFID?
So the sales uplift still stays. That's a core, and we do that purely just to monitor that nothing's going to miss. It's increased. So, for example, once we launched Refill, we then realised we had around 7% of our products in our store not out. You know, all sizes were in the back and they weren't being presented on the sales floor. So that was not good, because we thought our previous replenishment system, which was sales-based, was good at that time, but it wasn't including where product had been put back accidentally, or, you know, hate to say it, but it was stolen the week before. You know, a sales-based replenishment system isn't going to tell you those products aren't there because they haven't sold. You know, it's not going to tell you to put them out. So actually having visibility of that was a key one for us. And then we then saw about an extra 1% uplift after we fully embedded Refill into our store operation. So that's it's the only replenishment metric we use within store now. It's done multiple times a day in some of our larger stores, every 30 or 40 minutes, to ensure that those sizes are out for our customer. And then again, we're able to see the speed of when they move to the sales floor and then when they're sold. So yeah, it's been great to have an additional uplift. And I think all of the functions or the things we layer on, there's kind of three areas for it. Is there a sales benefit? You know, it's a nice, easy ROI. Is there a benefit to our store teams? Does it make it more efficient? Is it more robust for them? But then also, what's the end customer experience? So us getting that product to the floor as quick as possible benefits our customer having to try and find a member of staff and then ask them for a product, and then the member of staff having to go and find it. It's there for them when they need it. Likewise, ensuring that our product is in the right place, a customer can pick it up and just put it straight into a self-checkout and leave the store within minutes. So yeah, they all kind of link together, and those I think are just as important as the financials. It's great to have extra cash in your pocket, but it's also great to improve the experience for an internal customer and also leveraging it for your external customers as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then it sort of all adds up, right? Because the better customer experience in the end is also an indirect sales driver. Yeah. You, when we spoke in preparation of this chat, you also mentioned a very different number that is maybe less to do with direct ROIs or KPIs that you measure, but more also a side effect of implementing RFID. And you highlighted it because it was COVID time, stores were closed, everything was stuck, stock was everywhere, but you couldn't access it, and you had lots of stock, but you couldn't sell it.
And I think that was a pivot moment for us. So to give everyone some background, in the UK, during the height of COVID, a lot of retailers had to close their doors, and there was a lot of uncertainty around when those stores would reopen, and in some areas it was quite a few months. So we had a bit of a predicament. We'd just launched our summer range into stores, and then we couldn't sell it to anyone. And the stock that was online or was ring fenced for our ecom business was selling really well because everyone was at home. Everyone wanted to get some outfits because they were hoping for a great summer. But we didn't have enough stock. We were selling through it, and then we were out of stock online, and we had stock sitting within stores that we couldn't get. So RFID was a game changer for that, in the sense that we were confident that that store had that stock. Whereas before, it was all kind of guesswork. When was it received into store? When did they last do an annual stock take? Is there any in store yet? Do we want to ask people to go into store and send it back to the distribution center to then find out? They go, we don't have that. Someone stole it, or we never received it. So RFID really helped with that. So we were able to identify the stores that had the stock and the volume that was needed, get those store teams to send it back to our distribution center for it to then be reallocated online to sell within that 8 or 9 week window that products kind of have that life cycle. So yeah, that was a clear win for us. COVID helped in that very small instance to really shine the light on the RFID accuracy, and for the business to feel really confident in that what the system says based on our weekly counting and all the other operations is true. And that's really supported us over the last few years, because we now buy less volume of stock. So there was a point earlier this year, we had around 40% less stock than we did last year. And that's because we buy less volume, because we no longer need to overstock our stores, because we now know what stores have what stock. And if they don't have it, we're able to get them that stock within the next few days. So you don't need to have these crazy buffers anymore, which sometimes you may need, and then sometimes you don't. And then unfortunately, you have to put it into markdown and take a hit. So yeah, we're able to buy less volume, but also generate more sales with significantly less stock. And it's easier to handle. There's less stock for our store teams to have to worry about as well, which is another win.
Yeah. Less stock in the end makes everything more manageable, right? Receiving shipments, putting everything on the shelf, but also for customers in the end to just get the right product, not just have a full stack of products that they need to skim through simply because there was no space anymore in the stock room. Yeah, makes sense. And I think that's a really striking metric, because when we talk about RFID, we often talk about the sales uplift that you can get by just doing the replenishment accurately. But I think these are really nice side effects that you get from RFID that are embedded in so many different departments in your organization. And Tom, if you look at your organization, where would you say RFID sits right now? Which teams are touching RFID?
So the end user is retail. So all of our retail stores use the application that you provide. We integrate with a lot of teams across our business functions. So obviously predominantly with our IT teams to ensure our infrastructure can ingest that data and make the decisions. But then we've got our buying and merchandising teams, so they can allocate based on what product has gone to where. You've then got finance teams who look at the auditing perspective, or loss prevention and risk teams who then use that data and leverage it to identify patterns. Having a serialized data on a product is great for them because they're able to track it start to end. So that's a great thing for them. And then we also get questions from other departments go, can we use RFID for this? So we've started playing around with things in supply chain to see if we can, identify accuracy of cartons coming into stores and going to suppliers, and if we can quickly locate products that have been in one place and then they go walkabouts. So yeah, we're starting to leverage it a lot more. We've also started leveraging it in our head office. So we're looking at other things to use RFID for, not just necessarily on clothing. We've had conversations in the past around hangers, fixtures, equipment, to try and track that around the business as well. So yeah, everyone is impressed when they see what RFID can do. It's just everyone wants it now, and this is why I keep going back to RFID isn't a product on its own. It's an enabler for so many things, and when you look at it in that perspective, it seriously opens your horizons. Yeah.
So that's great for you that so many people are now asking, like,
Keeps me
Tom,
busy.
please can we do something with RFID? Because It keeps you busy indeed. And that's exciting, right? It's exciting when people see value in the things that you're doing. But many retailers may not be in that position yet. What would you advise them when someone is just getting started with RFID or maybe just have the basics in place? How do you get them from that starting point to where you were, where the business starts asking for it more and more?
Yeah, I think it's good to start small. So we did start small. So we're a multi-fashion retailer that sells footwear, clothing, handbags, accessories, jewelry, perfumes, a variety of product. And RFID tagging isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. What works on one product doesn't work on another. And we kind of understood that at the beginning. So we focused on clothing. You know, you don't have to sit there and go, we want everything, every function. We want to sell at RFID, we want to return at RFID, we want to do in and out, everything like that. You don't need to start there. You can layer it. And I definitely think that's a sensible approach because if something goes wrong, you can kind of solve it and then take each chunk, each building block, so to speak. You can reinforce that building block and then put another one on top. And I think that really worked well for us. Also, because, you know, back when we started, some of the fancy stuff that we see now wasn't there. It wasn't quite ready or someone hadn't thought about it yet. So it worked in our favor that we started small and then we started scaling on top. And I think that's good as a business because over the years, we've been able to really teach internally what RFID can do. So we do showcase occasionally to our internal teams what we did last year, what's coming up. We did a session a couple of years back, just before Christmas, with all of our store managers, and we showed them all of the new RFID tech that was coming to some of their stores the year after, and they were like, "I'm getting that in a few months. I'm so excited!" And it's great just to showcase because then everyone buys into it, and that's what I think you need to focus and spend a lot of time is in getting that buy-in and the adoption. And now that we're in a good place, it's really easy because, yes, some people come to me with ideas and I'm like, I've never thought of that, but that's such a great idea. So it helps me out at the same time. But then, yeah, some of the ideas that come from your teams that don't necessarily touch it can be some of the best ones as well.
I also love hearing that you organize these sessions where the store managers can really experience what's coming next and already plant the seeds, prepare them, get their ideas quick and early because you're probably still working on it then. So better to get
Yeah,
their first input in instantly in that moment. Are there
I
initiatives
agree.
like that
100%.
where you keep people involved?
Yeah, so we always, when we deliver something new, so if there's a change in a process or a new functionality or a new product that we want to launch within currently our retail estate, that we will always look at what's the benefit to them. There needs to be a benefit to get some buy-in, whether it makes it quicker, better, makes them more money. It's fun. So, for example, I'm going to use the example of the emojis on the counting. So, when you do a team count in ID Cloud, you get an emoji, and the unicorn is a rare one that, to this day, I have never received, and I still think it's a myth. I'm yet to see the unicorn, but we do that occasionally, where I'll go around to stores when we're doing a refit, and I'll say, if anyone can get the unicorn, you know, lunch is on me. Let's do something. Let's just drive that momentum, and then someone's like, I always get the bumblebee. I've never had the unicorn, and you get their momentums going, and then it's more of a fun activity rather than I'm counting every single product within the store and a task. So it's having the spin and the fun in it, but also getting their feedback. So I actively speak to the stores, and if they go, "Oh, we wanted to do this," or "Can it do this?" It could even be it's on my radar and I'm aware it's there, but it needs a bit more finesse. That's great because the team believe they've got a great idea and have passed it on and it's going to come down the line. And then when it does, it's like, I mentioned this, you know, this is great. This is going to help us out. So that when we then deliver training or cascade it down, it's a bit easier. They're already aware it's kind of coming. They already know what kind of benefit is going to be there. Yes, there may be a change in process or a bit of work that will have to be done, but you've already started with the selling point. And you know, what's the benefit? What's in it for me? And I think that's a good way of looking at it. You know, RFID has a lot of benefits for your business or your organization, but what about the teams within it and what's their benefits? Because there may be some work from them they'll have to do, and you know they'll balance out the benefit and the workload.
Yeah, exactly. Like involve them early on and keep them on board as you go, and don't let it just water down. Really keep it going. Do small things here and there to keep the enthusiasm high. that's where you start, right? You start with like a use case, something small that builds the business case, expand from there. When do you start?
So it's a tricky one because I like to start very early on. You know, as soon as I see if there's a problem statement within one of our stores, then I come to the guys that need app and I'll say, we've got this problem. I believe RFID could, solve it in some extent, and then we'll work on a solution if it's possible. But then on the flip side, sometimes there'll be great functionality that I would want to then engage in store. So the first thing I think of is, what's the benefit? There's a benefit for me, there's a benefit for the use of RFID, but what's the benefit for them? There's got to be something for them. And you start with that, and then you can pilot it. And there's been many pilots I've done over the years. And then we've tried it, and I'm like, this is going to be great. This is going to, be amazing. And then we land it in a store, and they go, not so great. And you may pause. There's a few that we've come back to a few years later, and then they're great. They might have other dependencies to kind of focus on first. But they're also a bit of a highlight to the store because they're able to see there is something new and we're not just being stagnant. For a few years, we did just count weekly, and then it became a bit of a norm. And now that we're adding all of the extra bits on top, it's now become everything in store to do with our product operations now sits around RFID. So it's such a key part of our store. And our stores have competitions between them. They'll see a report or they'll see a KPI, and then they'll go, oh, they'll put in their little Teams chat that, oh, I did better than you last week. We had better size availability than you. You're slacking. So there's a little bit of friendly competition between stores. And then also when individuals are counting and it's like, well, I've got a higher accuracy in this department than you. So yeah, it's great to keep it fun. And yeah, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. And that's the joy of RFID, because if that's not the solution, it may just need a bit more finessing, and you can kind of go away and work on it. But yeah, most things have landed straight away. A few things you need to refine. There's a couple of things I've piloted just to kind of prove that they're not right for us. Because I could say, yeah, I don't think this will work for our business. And then they do. And likewise, it could be the other way around. I think this will work and it doesn't. So yeah, you're all right to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah, at some point you just have to get your hands dirty and try out things and really focus on that benefit eventually, because it's not just for the sake of trying or not just for the sake of bringing in cool technology. It's all about, does it work for the HQ, for the store, and in the end for the end customer.
Exactly.
Now, we have a lot of people listening in, and I do want to remind them we are in the final bit of today. I already tackled some questions as we went, but I'm sure there are more questions. So feel free to just share them with us, and then we can cover them in the final minutes. And Tom, if you would give one piece of advice to someone who is now in their decision-making process, selecting an RFID vendor or deciding to start with source tagging, for example, what advice would you give to anyone in such positions?
I think it's good to lay out what you would like to achieve. So what is your kind of end goal? And I say this as someone that couldn't really do it because, again, 7-8 years ago, a lot of the technology and the functionality that uses RFID didn't exist then. So we were playing a bit of a catch up in the middle phase. But don't just focus in on, we want to do a stock take, because that's the baseline. There is so much more from it. So do you want to integrate it to something that's customer facing? So for us online, you can see what stock is in what store based on the RFID data updating our stock holdings. So we're able to show that to a customer without them even being in the store. And they're things that you don't necessarily think about at first. You just go, I want to know as a business what stock is where. But you kind of need to think a bit more North Star and further afield. It may take you a while to get there, but you can kind of plan those milestones, so to speak, to get there. And I think that's the thing I've seen across the industry from other retailers that have wanted to go into it. They either want to...
So in a way, you're saying do look at that North Star, even though you should start with one.
It's a North Star for a reason. You don't need to do all of that within 6 months and then start. I used the example earlier of we only started source tagging our clothing at first, and we didn't add in some of our accessory departments for a few years because we had to finesse what label type would work on those products. We didn't want to do all of it in one go and then go, this isn't working, disaster. Let's get to panic stations and try and resolve it. We knew that it wouldn't be 100% perfect to begin with, so we started small, but we knew where we wanted to get to. We knew that we wanted to be 100% source tagged. We didn't set a specific timeline because we know there was work to do, but we knew where we wanted to go. But you can start with a much smaller amount, and it's the same with stores. Some retailers may want to start with a handful of stores and then scale it out. And similar to us, we piloted in a few stores and scaled it out by region. You can do that. It's entirely up to you. Or one full swoop if you're a much smaller retailer. There's no one size fits all, but what I would say is you start small, definitely, but you also want in your mind where you want to go, and that's the end goal. So you're not stopping and starting, or you develop it, it's perfect, and then if you try and add something else on top of it, there's a lot of complexities you've got to throw into the mix.
Keep it in mind already when you're thinking about your source tagging, when you're thinking about your vendor selection, when you're thinking about your integrations, even where do we want to end up, and does what I'm doing right now then make sense, even though you're not doing the full 100% yet. Yeah,
it's
that
great
makes
to
sense.
see what's there, and I could go, we're not in a position to use that for another 5 years, but it's great to know that it's there, because then it starts those cogs in your head. That's there, so it's possible. So we could do that, and we've got something planned in a couple of years that would enable that. So it kind of, it's great to see what's out there in the industry, because it does help with a lot of thought process about what's next.
Right. Now, if in the end you would give one final piece of advice for anyone listening in today, and that's also a call for anyone who is listening in to post final questions that you may have. What advice would it in general be for retailers working or looking at RFID on how to scale inventory visibility? What would your final piece of advice be?
I say it because I know a few retailers have done it, and they've then backtracked on that. But ensure that you have don't treat RFID as an initiative. So you're going to do it once and then that's it. It's done and dusted, and you forget about it. You constantly need to keep touching base on it and evolving it and leveraging it. And that's something we do quite good. There's a very good core team that I work with every day, and they are responsible for ingesting everything, and then also the output that goes out to the wider business. And I think that's key, because then we're able to spot things and see if it's going wrong and fix it when it's early on. Whereas if you launch RFID and it just enables things and then everything else ticks on, it then becomes responsibility of loads of different functions that may not work together all the time. And then there's just this complexity of, if it goes wrong, well, who's going to fix it? How's it gone wrong? What's wrong with it? You kind of lose a bit of a scope on it. And then you'll then build a team to fix it. And then you fix it, and then that team will disband back into their functions again. Then a year or so later, it may be great, and then something happens again, and then you all create this function, and then off you go again. So yeah, we've kept a central RFID team for the entirety of this product, and we'll keep it because we believe it needs to sit in its own outright. It's an enabler for a lot of things, and therefore you kind of need those in and out conversations,
right,
and projects. So definitely look at a form of function that would oversee your RFID product within your business.
So you have one single team that really takes ownership of the RFID project, not just during the implementation phase when it maybe makes most sense for retailers, but moving forward. So don't bring it into just IT or just loss prevention, but try to really have a more central team that looks at it from not just one lens, but multiple lenses at once, if you really want to make sure it's embedded in multiple functions.
Yeah, personally, I wouldn't go any other way.
Okay, and you have a good team. I know you have many teams, many people listening in today, and I think they will feel proud with the exciting highlights that you've shared with us today. just a final check in the audience if there's nothing that we haven't covered yet. I don't think so. But Tom, I'm pretty sure that if anyone is still eager to learn more about your journey after today, and that you're more than happy to have a chat.
Of course.
I'll do the invitation on your behalf for anyone listening in today. It was a pleasure having you, Tom. I hope you had a good time too.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, thanks for catching up, Steffi. It's always great to talk about what we're doing and what RFID can do. So, yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for sharing so much. For anyone who is listening in, I saw a lot of people scanning the QR code that was on the screen already. So there you can also find a summary of what we've been speaking about today, with also some of the key KPIs mentioned by Tom. It's definitely an interesting read, and also something that you may want to share if you feel like it was valuable to you with other people that you think it might be valuable for. And then all that's left for me is to say thank you for joining. Thank you for joining and chatting with us, Tom. And hope to see everyone at our very next fireside chat.